Hello there. Today is recapping day 43 of working on a currently untitled project, so let's hop right in. So today I worked on reworking some of the internal data of SR weapon data to have dynamically populating lists of stuff. So now what this allows me to do is say I want to change some property on a projectile, I can just go ahead into the weapon, and now the minimum velocity on this guy is like that. And this works dynamically, so it can be sped back up. It can be reset to a default. All the good stuff. We can scale things. All that stuff. It also supports sub-objects, like all sub-objects. So you have your initial projectile here, and that will be listed as the first item. But then you have a sub-object, so in this case the starburst projectile 2, which has its own properties. In this case it's another starburst projectile, so it mimics the first one. And so you can just edit all that stuff. And you can just go down the chain, however many deep you go. It supports more than just projectiles, so in this case I'll need to hop to the main menu and oh wait, that will automatically equip when I go to here. So in this case, if I set the duration of the oh dear, that one actually seems to not work. I must have screwed something up, but this one, it's straightforward enough to get it to work. I just need to I will sort this out in the ramble section. I mean, that shouldn't be an issue. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Oh, did I? Yeah, okay, so when I'm going to sort this out in the ramp section, so I'm going to just finish up this part first. So as noted, projectile, it can be either projectiles or other sub-objects. It uses an interface, so it can be anything in particular. Right now the explosions are not working, but other projectiles do, which I will sort out momentarily. You can just sort of chain these together endlessly if you want to. So if you want to just keep having these oh dear, that may have been a few too many. You can cause havoc. I'm just gonna stop that. Anyways, Control Z works out of the box, which is I just consider that a minor miracle. If I set this to some value, then reset it, I can just Control Z. If I swap this to none and then Control Z, the value is maintained. It just works, which is absolutely fantastic. So I'm very appreciative of Unity for just supporting this out of the box, because this is doing things in a very weird way. I'll get into that during the ramble section. And I still need to do a lot. Like, I need to add in damage values for each of the projectiles. Now that I can actually set the individual damage of an individual projectile, rather than having to just have this generic damage min, damage max on the weapon itself that is referenced by all projectiles, and so on and so forth of the weapon. This is a notable improvement. It is a lot more flexible. It's dynamic, so if I make more projectiles, I can just use them, and I don't need to edit the weapon data to accommodate them. I only need to accommodate things that are like fundamentally new types, like if I want to do a better beam weapon, I need to accommodate that. That's all the core stuff. Apologies again about the quick sidetrack. I'll get more into that in the ramble section. If you want to listen to me ramble, feel free to stick around. If you want to click off, feel free to do so. I figured I might as well go over the system, just because this might be interesting to someone. So the way that I'm handling this is, I set up a bunch of different structs for different types of properties that can be had. I have a general subobject data struct that has lists of each of these types of properties. Then I just have a list of subobject data. And whenever the weapon data is validated, meaning whenever this is changed in the editor, whenever a property is set, I first copy all the current data into what I'm called the old data, but again, that's a bit of a misnomer, because this is actually the current data. And then I'm clearing the data, and then I'm recursively populating it again. Some basic checks, and then if, just ground the subobject script off of whatever the game object is. If it exists, then I think this variable isn't needed anymore, is it? Yeah, okay, so this is just to try this. But basically, for the new subobject, initialize the data. The path is what's used to refer to any given projectile or subobject. So that I'll get into that later. But basically, there's the get unique properties function. This gets all the properties on a default mono behavior and whatever this current type is, and lists them out. And for each property that exists, if it's not in the mono behavior, then add it to the output list. So this just gets all the properties that are below the mono behavior on the inheritance hierarchy. So everything that's on projectile and below, for example, like anything that inherits from projectile, those properties will also show up, but anything that's on a default mono behavior won't show up. This is just to limit the scope, because otherwise there would be a monumental number of properties, probably. And I'm just not interested in most of them, so I just want to limit it to the things I'm actually interested in. I might add exceptions for like specific properties in here, if there's something that I decide is important, but for right now, no. So then I just say, hey, for each type that I'm taking in, just if this particular property is of that type, then create a property for it, or a sub-object property for it, rather, and add it to the list on the data struct here. I would use a switch statement, but that doesn't really work with when you check against type of. There is a way to do it, but it's just more confusing than just doing a normal if else statement. So I'm just doing that. Then this repopulates. I'll get into this in a sec. This just takes the old data and or what is actually the current data and just keeps all the previous values. So this is how data is maintained instead of it being poached every single time you try to change anything. I'll get into this in a moment, like I said. And then that's added to the sub-object property data. And then for every object that was an object property, just try adding sub-object data for that particular object based on what the current path is, dot, whatever that property name was. And this again is just for when the values later get set. You need to know what the exact. It's just pattern matching. So retain old sub-object property data. This checks to see, hey, which was there a previous sub-object that had the same name as this sub-object? If so, then grab the old data, and for each of the property types, just for each property that was there, for each property that currently exists, for each property that used to exist, check against properties that currently exist, and if the names match, then just set the new value to the old value, and do that for each of the types, and then return the data struct. So then for actually setting the values, let me see. So this is the part where yes, okay, this is what I was doing wrong. This here is in start, but I should move this to the I should move this to a init, and I need to copy this over to explosion. There we go. That's what I needed. So that's why it wasn't working for explosions. But yes, so when a weapon fires a projectile, it just it calls init, which just sets up the whatever the source entity is, the weapon data, and gives it the initial path. Then for spawning a sub-object of a projectile, where first cover this. Let me cover this part first. It sets up the basic data and then says, hey, as long as this isn't null, set the sub-object values. Setting the sub-object values is just saying, hey, for each sub-object data, if you can find something that matches the path of this sub-object, then grab all the values from that and just set all the values to whatever is in the sub-object data. As noted by this comment here, get property is slow. It's not horrifically slow, it's not a huge deal, but it is a problem. I should optimize this. I would just need to populate this whenever sorry, water. Whenever gameplay starts, basically, I just need to populate all this information so that this is gotten once and then it's just referred to, and then you just call set value and it works. Yeah, that would be faster. Anyways, for spawning the sub-objects, this works for sub-projectiles as well as anything else you want to spawn in. You just spawn the game object, grab the sub-object script, and the path again is equal to whatever the previous path was, dot, and then you have to pass in the sub-object property name manually, because this is just going to be faster than trying to get the property name dynamically. Like, I could try to do it that way, but I'd rather not. So, yeah. So for the Starburst projectile as an example, in Explode right now, it generates the rotation and then spawns a sub-object with the Burst projectile as the game object to spawn, Burst projectile is the actual property name, then transform rotation, and so on and so forth. And then it's initted, which, you know, goes through and sets the sub-object values and then returned. As a side effect, this does mean that all the different values need to have properties which don't automatically show up in the Unity Inspector. You need to have the backer fields here. So as you can tell, I've renamed a bunch of stuff, and yeah. It's pretty straightforward to set up. Yeah, I just thought this might be interesting for someone, so I figured I'd just go through it. Same basic process for log projectiles as well. You just use spawn sub-object to spawn the explosion object. And now this actually should work, so I'm just going to verify that here. If I set this to 1, and there you go. And yeah, so yeah, I really like the system. I think it's pretty powerful. I'm excited to continue using it. I'm excited to have this in the hands of my designer once she is properly brought into the project. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As now, there's still some more stuff to do, but it's nothing too hard. It's mostly just, you know, some stuff that I should do anyways. This is going to be really nice because now I don't have to, like, if I want something like the Starburst in the future, I don't have to go and create 4 different projectiles for it. I could just create like one or two projectiles for it, and then just have stuff like setting the materials on it or setting the scale and so on and so forth, and everything else is just accommodated. And for modifying the values, again, it's just I at least think it's much nicer to look at this here than to go in and modify. Oh, you want to modify this particular Starburst? Well, you have to like go over here and then modify these values and so on and so forth. It will be up to CrunchyFox to see if she agrees or disagrees with this, but because this just allows a lot more reuse, because it means that any given projectile can be reused more than once for any for different weapons. which is probably going to be nice. At minimum, in the short term, it will be nice. There will have to be some differences, but like some projectiles will just need to be tailor-made and so on and so forth. And that may be the endpoint that we reach. Anyways, time will tell. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. I like the system. I think it's a good system, and it centralizes all the data into one singular place that you can modify. So I like that. It might, though I suppose it might actually be a small hassle if you do want things to be the same. Like if you do want, so for the Empowered Starburst, that reuses the original Starburst projectile, and it just fires out, it fires out 4 of the normal Starburst projectiles for more chaos. If you do want the values to be the same, then it would be a little bit of a hassle to have to modify both of these to maintain that. This again is just something I'm going to have to discuss with CrunchyFox and just see what does she prefer and how would she like everything to be set up, because she's the one who has to actually use the system the most. I'll need to use it as well, but she'll probably, her opinions will have influence on whether or not all this is actually a good idea. So anyways, I have now rambled for 22 minutes, so I'm going to end it here. Yeah, if you have any comments, questions, ideas, or anything else on your mind, leave a comment below. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.